The Krillian warships appeared in Earth's sky without warning. General Vexter stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive planet below. His scaled hands gripped the command rail as he studied the tactical display. Earth was nothing special, just another world to add to the Empire. The blue and green planet looked peaceful and weak. "Deploy the suppression field," Vexter ordered. His voice echoed through the bridge. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. The suppression field was standard procedure. It sent out waves that paralyzed the nervous systems of most sentient beings. Every species they had encountered simply fell asleep when the field activated. Within hours, the conquest would be complete. The field activated. Vexter waited for the confirmation that all resistance had ended. Nothing happened. "General, we are receiving transmissions from the surface," his communications officer reported. "They are still active. All of them." Vexter's eyes narrowed. "Increase field strength to maximum." Far below on Earth, Captain Dayan felt a strange tingling sensation wash over his body. He was stationed at a remote military outpost in the mountains with his unit of 50 soldiers. They had been tracking the alien ships since they entered the atmosphere. When the weird feeling passed through him, Dayan just shook his head and continued checking his rifle. "Did anyone else feel that?" asked Private Kiyun, scratching his arm. "Yeah, like static electricity," Sergeant Yemen replied. "Forget about it. We have bigger problems." Dayan looked at his team. They were ready. The aliens were landing near their position, probably thinking Earth would surrender without a fight. They were wrong. The alien landing craft touched down in the valley below the outpost. Vexter had sent 2,000 of his best soldiers. They wore advanced armor and carried plasma weapons. Their commander, Captain Ralph, led them forward with confidence. This was supposed to be easy. Dayan watched through his binoculars as the alien troops moved into the forest. They walked in tight formations, using sensors to scan for life signs. They were well-trained, but predictable. "Spread out," he whispered into his radio. "Use the trees. Hit and move. Make every shot count." His unit had trained for years in these mountains. They knew every trail, every hiding spot, every advantage the terrain offered. The aliens were walking into their home. The first shots came from 3 directions at once. 5 aliens dropped before they could react. Ralph shouted orders and his troops scattered, returning fire. Plasma bolts burned through trees and turned rocks to molten slag. But the humans were already gone, melting back into the forest. "Where are they?" Ralph screamed into his communicator. His sensors showed life signs everywhere, but the humans moved too fast. They appeared, fired, and vanished like ghosts. Dayan's unit used tactics that seemed insane to the aliens. They crawled through mud, climbed cliffs barehanded, and waited motionless in freezing water for hours just to get a perfect shot. When the aliens advanced, they found traps made from simple materials. Logs swung down from trees. Pitfalls opened beneath armored feet. Explosives made from fertilizer and fuel destroyed entire squads. The battle lasted 18 hours. The aliens had superior technology and numbers, but the humans never stopped. When they ran out of ammunition, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used rocks and their bare hands. Lieutenant Yunho strangled an alien soldier with his torn uniform after taking 3 plasma burns to his chest. He survived up on the flagship. Vexter watched his troops die one by one. The tactical display showed impossible things. Humans fighting with broken bones. Humans coordinating complex ambush without any electronic communication. Humans dragging themselves forward even when injured so badly they should be dead. How are they still moving? Vexter demanded. Their medical scans showed damage that would kill any of our soldiers 10 times over. His science officer studied the data with trembling hands. General, I don't understand. They feel pain. Their biology confirms it. But they just ignore it. They keep fighting. By dawn, Ralph had only 300 soldiers left. They were pinned down in a clearing, surrounded by humans they could barely track. Dayan's unit had lost 12 people, but the rest were still fighting. Some were injured, but refused to stop. General, request immediate extraction. Ralph begged over the communicator. These creatures are not normal. They don't fight like anything I've ever seen. They should be dead, but they won't stop. Please, get us out of here. Vexter had never heard fear in Ralph's voice before. The captain had fought in 50 campaigns across the galaxy. He had faced warrior species and hive minds and sentient machines. Nothing had ever broken him like this. Retreat, Vexter ordered quietly. Bring our forces back. All of them. The Krillian ships pulled away from Earth's atmosphere. Vexter stood alone on the bridge, staring at the planet below. 50 humans had defeated 2,000 of his elite soldiers. The suppression field had done nothing. Every tactical advantage had failed. He had underestimated them completely. In the mountain outpost, Dayan watched the alien ships disappear into space. His uniform was torn and bloody. He had a broken rib and burns on his left arm. Around him, his surviving soldiers tended to each other's wounds and collected their dead. They were exhausted but alive. Think they'll come back? Yemen asked. Dayan reloaded his rifle and shook his head. Maybe, but now they know what humans can do. They know we don't quit. Vexter recorded his report with shaking hands. He had to tell the Krillian High Command what had happened. He had to explain how everything went wrong. But most importantly, he had to warn them. Humanity was dangerous in ways the galaxy had never seen before. The Galactic Coalition Research Station orbited a neutral moon, far from both Earth and Krillian space. Inside the sterile white laboratories, Dr. Mirez stood perfectly still while alien scientists scanned her body. The Coalition had sent their best minds to figure out what made humans so different, so dangerous. Myre was a xenobiologist from Sol. She had volunteered for this study because she wanted to help build bridges between species. She found the aliens fascinating. They found her terrifying. Please breathe normally, the lead researcher, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Ullman, said through its translator. Ullman's species communicated through color changes in their transparent bodies. Right now, Ullman was flashing orange, which meant extreme concern. I am breathing normally, Murray said with a smile. Ullman's colors shifted to deep purple. Horror. Your oxygen intake would kill most species. Your lungs possess a corrosive gas that we use for industrial fuel. Myre shrugged. Oxygen is just what we breathe. It's everywhere on Earth. The other scientists in the room moved backward. One of them, a small furry being, fainted. Across the station, Hyunwoo sat in a diplomatic meeting room with representatives from 12 different species. He was Earth's first official envoy to the Coalition. The young diplomat had prepared for months, learning alien customs and studying galactic politics. He thought the meeting was going well until he mentioned Earth's history. So humans have been unified for how long? Asked Ambassador Tilwan, a bird-like creature with 4 eyes. We're not fully unified yet, Hyunwoo admitted. We still have separate nations and governments. But we're working on it. The room went silent. Several aliens exchanged worried looks. You're not unified? Tilwan's feathers stood on end. But your military forces coordinate perfectly. We watched the battle footage. How do you work together without a hive mind or collective consciousness? We just talk to each other and make plans, Hyunwoo said slowly. Is that unusual? A reptilian delegate leaned forward. Your species wages war against itself? Well, yes. Historically, we've had many wars between different human groups. Himwu pulled up a holographic display showing a basic timeline of human history. The First World War, the Second World War, countless smaller conflicts. The aliens stared at the casualty numbers. Millions dead. Entire cities destroyed. And humans had done this to each other. You survived this, Tilwan whispered. You killed each other by the millions, and your species still exists. Still thrives. Yes, we learned from those mistakes, Himu said. We're much more peaceful now. One of the delegates stood up and left the room. Another began making a sound that the translator identified as sobbing. Meanwhile, General Vexter sat in a darkened room, watching combat footage for the 100th time. The Krillian Empire had granted him access to the Coalition research project. He needed to understand what went wrong on Earth. The video showed humans doing impossible things. They jumped from heights that should shatter their bones and just rolled when they landed. They ran for hours without stopping. They fought in temperatures that would freeze or cook most species. They ate food that registered as toxic on every scanner. Vexter paused the video on Captain Dehun's face. The human had been injured badly, bleeding from multiple wounds. But his expression showed determination, not fear. His eyes were calculating the next move, even while his body was breaking down. Computer, analyze human pain response, Vexter commanded. The analysis appeared on screen. Humans felt pain just like other species. Their nerves sent the same signals. Their brains registered danger and damage. But somewhere between feeling the pain and reacting to it, humans made a choice. They decided to keep going anyway. That's not possible, Vexter muttered. Pain is supposed to stop you. It's supposed to make you protect yourself. The door opened and Tolmer entered. The Coalition's head scientist was an ancient being who had studied hundreds of species. He looked tired and disturbed. I finished the environmental analysis of Earth, Tolmer said, projecting a hologram of the planet. General, I need you to understand something. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Explain, Vexter demanded. The gravity is 50% higher than galactic standard. The atmosphere contains corrosive oxygen. The weather systems are violent and unpredictable. The tectonic plates shift constantly, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The planet is covered in predators, parasites, and diseases that have been locked in an evolutionary arms race for billions of years. Tolmer pulled up images of Earth's animals: lions, bears, sharks, crocodiles. Humans had evolved alongside creatures that could kill them easily. Humans are not apex predators by strength or speed. Tolmer continued. They won through persistence. They would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They adapted to every climate on their planet. They survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and supervolcanoes. They are the product of the most brutal evolutionary pressure cooker in known space. Vexter felt his blood run cold. We sent soldiers to fight the survivors of a death world. Worse, Tolmer said. You fought the survivors of a death world who spent their entire history fighting each other. Every human alive today is descended from the ones who were too stubborn to die. Back in the laboratory, Myre was answering questions about human recreation. The aliens had found Earth's entertainment databases and were deeply confused. You run long distances for fun? Ullman asked. Marathons? Some humans run over 100 miles without stopping. Some people enjoy it, Myre said. It's good exercise. Exercise. You deliberately damage your muscles so they grow back stronger. Yes, that's how it works. Ullman flashed through several colors that had no translation. And this substance, capsaicin, it triggers your pain receptors. You experience burning agony. And you add it to food on purpose? Myray laughed. Spicy food is delicious. You should try it. We cannot. It would kill us. Omen paused. Dr. Myray, do humans understand that you are abnormal? That your species breaks most rules of biology? Myray thought about it. I guess we're just used to it. To us, we're normal. Everything else is normal. We don't think about how hard our lives are because it's all we've ever known. That statement terrified the alien scientists more than anything else they had learned. Humans didn't even realize how dangerous they were. The Coalition flagship Harmony of Stars was the pride of the Galactic Fleet. It had hosted peace conferences, first contact ceremonies, and cultural exchanges for 300 years. Today, it was hosting humanity's delegation, and the crew was nervous. Soldier G1 stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around the massive docking bay. She was a Special Forces operative, chosen to demonstrate human military capabilities. The aliens had requested a practical demonstration of human physical abilities. G1 thought it would be simple. She was wrong about what the aliens considered simple. Welcome aboard, Ambassador Tilwan said, his translator turning his chirps into human speech. We have prepared an obstacle course using our standard military testing parameters. We hope you will find it appropriate. G1 followed a group of aliens to the training deck. The obstacle course looked easy. Some walls to climb, barriers to jump over, and a short run at the end. She had done harder exercises before breakfast. Our record for this course is held by the Calthene species, Tilwan explained. They completed it in 18 minutes. We do not expect you to match their time, as they are considered the most athletic species in the Coalition. G1 stretched her arms and legs. Can I start now? Whenever you are ready. She started running. The first wall was about 3 meters high. G1 jumped, caught the top edge, and pulled herself over in one smooth motion. The aliens watching gasped. On their planet, climbing required equipment and safety harnesses. The course had balance beams that G1 sprinted across without slowing down. It had weights to lift that she hoisted over her head easily. It had a crawling section through narrow tubes where she moved like water flowing downhill. She finished the entire course in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The timing display blinked. Several aliens checked their equipment, thinking it was malfunctioning. That's impossible, a technician whispered. She moved at speeds that should tear muscle tissue. G1 wasn't even breathing hard. That was fun? Do you have a harder course? Tilwan's feathers went completely white, which meant shock. You were not trying your maximum effort? It was a good warm-up, G1 said with a smile. Our basic training courses back home are tougher than this. Security footage of G1's run spread through the ship within hours. Aliens gathered in groups to watch, speaking in hushed tones. Some refused to believe it was real. In the engineering section, Minho was having his own moment of cultural confusion. He was a mechanical engineer from Bizan, brought along to discuss human technology. The Coalition engineers had invited him to tour their engine room. This is magnificent, Minho said, examining the massive plasma drive. How often do you service the compression manifolds? Service? The lead engineer, a crystalline being named Shrak, vibrated with confusion. We do not perform physical maintenance. Our systems are designed to never require direct contact. What happens if something breaks? We replace the entire unit remotely. Minho noticed a warning light blinking on one of the control panels. He walked over and tapped it with his knuckle. The light went solid green. The humming noise in the engine normalized. Shrak made a sound like breaking glass. What did you do? It was loose, Minho said, shrugging. Sometimes you just need to give things a little knock to make them work right. You struck our engine with your physical appendage? Just a tap. It's fine now, see? The coalition engineers backed away from Minho like he was holding a bomb. The idea of hitting sophisticated machinery on purpose was insane to them. Their repair protocols involved careful scans, risk assessments, and committee approvals. On Earth, we call it percussive maintenance, Minho explained. Sometimes the direct approach works best. That evening, the coalition hosted a formal dinner for the human delegation. Medical officer Subin attended, along with Jiwan, Minho, and several others. The meal was vegetarian because the coalition had learned that humans were omnivores, and the aliens found that disturbing. During dinner, Ambassador Tilwan's assistant complained of a headache. Subin offered to help. "I'm a doctor. Let me take a look," Subin said kindly. The assistant, a small amphibious creature, agreed nervously. Subin examined them with a portable medical scanner and frowned. "You have a small blockage in your inner ear, probably causing pressure. I can fix this easily. How?" The assistant asked. "I'll need to reach in and remove it." Subin pulled out a thin medical tool. The assistant fainted. Two other aliens at the table collapsed. Tilwan's feathers stood straight up in alarm. "You were going to insert an object into their body?" Tilwan demanded. "While they were conscious." Subin looked confused. "It's a simple procedure. Takes 30 seconds. No pain. Your medicine involves penetrating the body?" "Well, yes. Surgery, injections, stitches. How else would we fix internal problems?" The aliens at the table looked at each other in horror. Coalition medicine was entirely non-invasive. They used energy fields and nanomachines that never required cutting or touching internal organs. "Humans perform surgery on each other?" Another alien asked weakly. "Of course," Subin said. "We've been doing it for thousands of years. We can replace hearts, repair brains, remove tumors. It's very advanced. You remove parts of the body?" "When we need to, yes." Several more aliens excused themselves from dinner. General Vexter had been invited to observe the cultural exchange. He sat in a monitoring room, watching everything unfold with growing dread. Every interaction revealed something new and terrifying about humanity. After dinner, the coalition showed the humans some of Earth's entertainment that they had downloaded. They were trying to understand human culture. They started with a popular action movie. The aliens watched in silent horror as humans on screen shot each other, crashed vehicles, jumped through explosions, and got back up to keep fighting. What humans considered exciting entertainment looked like a war crime documentary to the coalition. "This is fiction?" one alien asked. "For amusement?" "It's one of our most popular movies," Jiwon confirmed. "Pretty good, though the sequels are better." They switched to sports broadcasts. The aliens watched football, boxing, and hockey. They saw humans deliberately crashing into each other, punching each other, and celebrating injuries as part of the game. "You hurt each other for recreation," Tilwan said slowly. "You train your young to be violent through competitive games." "Sports are fun," Minho said. "They teach teamwork and strategy. They teach violence." "Well, controlled violence, sure." Tilwan turned to Vexter. "General, your assessment?" Vexter stood up. His legs felt weak. He had fought in wars across the galaxy. He had seen death and destruction. But humanity frightened him in a way nothing else ever had. "We need to file an emergency classification," Vexter said quietly. Humanity is a Class 12 hazard species. They are survivors of a death world who have weaponized their own biology and culture. They feel pain and fear like we do, but they have trained themselves to function through it. They fight each other for practice. They poison themselves for pleasure. They perform surgery on their own bodies while conscious. He looked at the humans, who were laughing and talking with each other. completely unaware of how terrifying they appeared to everyone else. And the worst part? Vexter continued. They think all of this is normal. They don't understand why we're afraid of them. They're trying to be friendly, till Juan's colors shifted through every shade of alarm. What do? We make sure they stay friendly, Vexter said. Because if humanity ever decides to be our enemy, the galaxy doesn't stand a chance. The science station floated in the void between star systems. It was a joint project with both coalition scientists and human researchers working together to study dark matter. Everyone thought it was safe out here. They were wrong. The raiders came without warning. They were a rogue group, criminals who attacked remote stations for supplies and technology. Their ships surrounded the station and cut off all communications. Within minutes, they had taken over the station and locked everyone in the main research lab. Nobody move and nobody gets hurt, the raider captain announced. He was a large insectoid creature with armor plating and multiple weapons. His crew of 40 raiders spread through the station, looting everything valuable. Among the hostages were 12 coalition scientists and 4 humans. The aliens were terrified, huddled together in a corner. The humans were silent, watching everything carefully. Taejun was one of the humans. He worked as a rescue specialist, which meant he was trained for exactly this kind of situation. Next to him was Yoonji, a computer scientist who looked scared but was already thinking about solutions. "We need to stay calm," whispered Dr. Ullman, the jellyfish-like scientist who had studied humans before. "The coalition will send negotiators. This will be resolved peacefully." Taejin shook his head slightly. "Negotiation takes time." "We don't have time." "What do you mean?" "I've seen raiders like this before. They're going to blow the station after they steal everything. We're witnesses. They can't leave us alive." Ullman's colors went pale with fear. The other aliens heard this and began to panic quietly. "Can you help?" one of them asked Taejun. "Yes, but you need to trust me and do exactly what I say." Back on the coalition flagship, General Vexter received the distress call before it was cut off. He immediately sent his fastest ships toward the station, but they were hours away. He also contacted Earth's military. "We have a situation," Vexter explained to the human commander on screen. "Raiders have taken a station. There are humans on board." "Send us the coordinates," the commander said. "We'll handle it." "My ships are closer," Vexter said. "We should coordinate a joint rescue." "Respectfully, General, your ships won't arrive in time. We have a rapid response team nearby. They're already moving." Vexter wanted to argue, but he had learned to trust human efficiency. "What's your plan?" "Get our people in. Get everyone out. Simple." Vexter thought about pointing out that nothing involving humans was ever simple, but he kept quiet. On the station, Taejin had been observing the raiders for 2 hours. He had counted their numbers, watched their patrol patterns, and identified their weak points. He caught Yoonji's eye and nodded toward the computer terminal in the corner of the lab. "I need you to access that terminal without them noticing," Taejin whispered. "How?" "They're watching us. I'll create a distraction." Before Yoonji could ask what he meant, Taejin stood up. The nearest raider pointed a weapon at him immediately. "Sit down," the raider shouted. "I need to use the bathroom," Taejin said calmly. "You can wait." "Not really. Human biology doesn't work that way." Taejin started walking toward the door. "I'm going to the bathroom. You can shoot me or let me go. Your choice." The raider looked confused. This tiny human was challenging him? "Stop or I'll fire." Taejin kept walking. The raider fired a warning shot that scorched the wall near Taejin's head. Taejin didn't even flinch. He just kept walking. Every raider in the room was now watching this confrontation. Every alien hostage was holding their breath. and Yunji was crawling quietly toward the computer terminal behind everyone's backs. "Last warning!" the raider screamed. Taejun turned and looked directly at the raider. His expression was calm, almost bored. "If you were going to shoot me, you would have done it already. Now move." The psychological effect was devastating. The raider, who had terrorized dozens of species, felt fear for the first time in years. This human showed no fear at all. The raider stepped aside and let Taejun pass. While Taejun was gone, Yunji reached the terminal and began working. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. She accessed the station's systems and started uploading a virus that would disable the raider's equipment. Gunfire echoed from another part of the station, and she kept typing. An explosion shook the walls, and she kept typing. She was terrified, but she didn't stop. This was what Vexter and the Coalition couldn't understand. Humans felt fear just like everyone else. They just didn't let it control them. Taejun returned to the lab just as the raider's weapons suddenly stopped working. The lights flickered and went red as emergency protocols activated. The raiders looked around in confusion. "What did you do?" the raider captain demanded. The station's outer airlock doors began opening remotely. Taejun smiled. "I called for help." The human rapid response team arrived in a small ship that should not have been able to make the journey so quickly. They had traveled through dangerous space at speeds that would have destroyed most vessels. The team was led by someone Taejun recognized, Lieutenant Young-ho, who had fought in the first battle with the Krillians. "Breach in 3, 2, 1. Young-ho's voice came through the station speakers. The team came in through the airlocks, wearing minimal spacesuits. They moved through zero-gravity sections that would disorient most species. They used explosive charges to blast through sealed doors. They encountered raiders and dealt with them using hand-to-hand combat that looked more like controlled violence than any martial art the Coalition had seen. Young-ho's team reached the lab in 4 minutes. The raiders tried to use the hostages as shields, but the humans moved with precision. They shot weapons out of the raiders' hands, disabled their armor with targeted strikes, and secured the area before the aliens fully understood what was happening. "All hostages secure," Young-ho reported. "0 casualties on our side." Taejun helped the alien scientists to their feet. Ullman was flashing colors that indicated complete disbelief. "You breached a combat zone in space," Ullman said. "You used explosives in an enclosed environment. You fought hand-to-hand against armed opponents. You did everything wrong according to Coalition rescue protocols." "We got everyone out safely," Taejun said. "That's all that matters. But you could have died." "Could have. Didn't. There's a difference." The raider captain was restrained and sitting on the floor. He looked at Young-ho with something like respect. "What are you?" he asked. "Human," Young-ho replied. "I've raided 40 stations. Fought 20 different species. I've never lost before." The raider shook his head. "I surrender. Fighting your kind is suicide." When Vexter's ships finally arrived, the situation was already resolved. He boarded the station and found the human rescue team having a meal with the freed hostages. They were eating ration packs and laughing about the mission like it was nothing special. "How many of you were on the rescue team?" Vexter asked. 8, Young-ho answered. 8 humans defeated 40 armed raiders. "They weren't that tough, sir. Standard criminal types. No real training." Vexter wanted to point out that those raiders had successfully attacked dozens of stations, but he knew it wouldn't matter. To humans, this was just another day. Yunji approached Vexter. She was still shaking slightly from the adrenaline, but her eyes were clear. "General, I need to apologize," she said. "For what?" "I was scared during the whole thing. I thought I might die." A real soldier wouldn't have been afraid. Vexter looked at this young human who had hacked enemy systems while under fire. who had kept working despite explosions and gunfire, who had helped save everyone on the station. "You were afraid, and you did it anyway," Vexter said quietly. "That's not weakness. That's the most terrifying kind of courage I've ever seen." Later, Coalition psychologists examined the human rescue team. The results confused them. The humans had normal fear responses. Their bodies produced stress hormones during danger. They experienced anxiety and worry like any other species, but they had something else. Something the Coalition called adrenaline response, but was really about will and determination. When humans got scared, their bodies made them faster and stronger. When other species panicked, humans became more capable. Vexter filed his final report on the incident. He wrote one sentence that summarized everything he had learned about humanity. They are afraid of death, but they refuse to let that fear stop them from doing what needs to be done. That sentence kept Coalition military strategists awake for weeks. The Coalition Council chamber was the largest room on the diplomatic station. Representatives from 200 species gathered here to make decisions that affected the entire galaxy. Today, they were deciding what to do about humanity. General Vexter stood at the center of the chamber, giving his testimony. Around him, holographic displays showed footage from the battle on Earth, the cultural exchange disasters, and the recent rescue mission. The council members watched with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. In conclusion, Vexter said, "I recommend that humanity be classified as a Class 12 hazard species and placed under strict observation. They are too dangerous to integrate freely into Coalition space." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many species wanted humans kept far away from their worlds. Ambassador Su-Yun stood up from the human delegation area. She was young, but had been chosen for her calm demeanor and sharp mind. Next to her stood Commander Bora, a veteran military officer with scars from 3 different wars. "May I respond?" Su-Yun asked politely. The council speaker, an ancient being of pure energy, gestured for her to proceed. "I understand your concerns," Su-Yun began. "Humans are different from most Coalition species. We evolved on a difficult world. We have capabilities that seem dangerous to you, but we come in peace. We want to be part of the galactic community." "You are predators," one council member accused. "You eat meat. You wage war on your own kind. You cannot be trusted." Su-Yun smiled sadly. "We were predators. We were warriors. But we learned to be more than that. Yes, we have a violent history. But we also have art, music, philosophy, and compassion. We want to share the good parts of humanity with you." "And if we refuse?" another council member asked. "If we vote to quarantine Earth?" Commander Bora stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm. "Then you would be making a mistake. We're offering friendship. Don't turn that into isolation. We're stronger together." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's emergency alarms activated. Red lights flashed. The council speaker's form flickered with distress. "We are receiving distress calls from the outer colonies," a technician announced. "Multiple star systems under attack. It's the Velgoroth swarm." The chamber erupted in panic. The Velgoroth swarm was the Coalition's nightmare. They were a species of insect-like creatures that traveled from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything. They had destroyed dozens of civilizations. Their ships numbered in the millions. Their soldiers felt no fear and never retreated. The Coalition had been preparing for a swarm invasion for decades. All their plans were based on defense and evacuation. They knew they couldn't defeat the swarm, only delay them. "How many ships?" Vexter demanded. "Initial scans show over 5 million swarm vessels in our space. They're targeting agricultural worlds and research stations. Casualties are already in the millions." Vexter felt his blood run cold. This was the worst-case scenario. Su-Yun looked at Commander Bora. They had a silent conversation with just their eyes, the way humans often did. Then Su-Yun turned to the council. "Let us help," she said. "You have no idea what you're facing," the council speaker said. "The swarm has destroyed species far more advanced than yours. They cannot be negotiated with. They cannot be frightened. They only consume." "Then they've never fought humans before," Bora said simply. The council didn't have time to argue. They were losing colonies every hour. They accepted Earth's help because they had no other choice. Vexter expected the humans to send their entire military, millions of soldiers to throw at the swarm through sheer numbers. Instead, Commander Bora arrived with a single fleet of 50 ships and 10,000 troops. "This is all you're sending?" Vexter asked in disbelief. "This is our rapid deployment force," Bora explained. "Our best people. Veterans from the mountain battle, the rescue team, and our top soldiers. We don't need millions. We need the right 10,000. Among those 10,000 were Daeun, now a major, Ji-won, leading a strike team, Taejun and his rescue specialists, Young-ho, who had become famous among humans for his toughness, and thousands of others who had trained their entire lives for war. The Coalition Military Command watched as the human fleet moved toward the swarm's position. They expected traditional tactics, defensive formations, long-range bombardment, and strategic retreats. The humans did the opposite. They flew their ships directly into the swarm's formation. They used ramming attacks, boarding actions, and close-quarters combat. They didn't try to destroy the swarm from a distance. They got right up close and personal. Daeun led his troops onto a swarm hive ship. The corridors were filled with swarm soldiers, each one a perfect killing machine with acid blood and razor-sharp claws. The coalition expected the humans to be slaughtered. Instead, the swarm started dying. Human soldiers used tactics that made no sense to the swarm's hive mind. They split up and attacked from multiple directions. They used the environment as a weapon, causing hull breaches and system failures. They fought in zero gravity, in toxic atmospheres, and in total darkness. Conditions that should have been impossible to fight in. These creatures are adapting too quickly. The swarm's hive intelligence registered. They should be following predictable patterns. They are not. That was because every human soldier was an individual, making their own decisions. The swarm's hive mind was designed to counter unified strategies. It couldn't predict 10,000 humans all thinking differently. On the surface of a colony world, G1's strike team defended a civilian evacuation point. The swarm sent wave after wave of soldiers. Standard coalition tactics would be to retreat and regroup. Ji-won's team stood their ground. "They just keep coming," one of her soldiers said, reloading his weapon. "So do we," Ji-won replied. "Set up crossfire positions. Use the buildings for cover. Make them pay for every meter." The battle lasted for 16 hours. The swarm threw thousands of soldiers at 100 humans. The humans should have been overwhelmed. Instead, they created a killing field. They used demolished buildings as fortifications. They rigged explosives in choke points. They fought until their ammunition ran out, then fought with blades and improvised weapons. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found Ji-won's team still standing. Exhausted, wounded, but alive. The swarm had lost over 3,000 soldiers trying to take that one position. Across the battlefront, similar stories played out. Humans didn't fight like any species the swarm had encountered. They used psychological warfare, blasting music through speakers to unnerve the swarm's coordination. They used biological warfare, spreading human diseases that the swarm's immune systems couldn't handle. They used simple brutality, hand-to-hand combat that shocked even the swarm's warrior castes. In orbit, Commander Bora coordinated the human fleet against swarm capital ships. The aliens watched in amazement as human pilots performed maneuvers that should have killed them from the acceleration forces. They watched human ships sacrifice themselves to save coalition vessels. They watched humans win through sheer determination. The turning point came on the 5th day of battle. The swarm's hive mind made a calculation. It analyzed human fighting patterns, casualty rates, and psychological profiles. Then it did something it had never done in 10,000 years of galactic conquest. It retreated. The swarm pulled back from coalition space, abandoning their invasion. Vexter couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Why are they running?" he demanded. "The swarm never retreats." Tolmer, the coalition scientist, was analyzing the swarm's communication signals. His face was pale with shock. "The hive mind has classified humans as apex predators," Tolmer explained. "It calculated that humans have a higher threat rating than the swarm itself. The hive mind determined that fighting humans would result in the swarm's extinction. That's impossible. Humans have lost ships. They've taken casualties. Yes, but they never stopped. They never slowed down. The swarm's projections show that even if they killed 90% of human forces, the remaining 10% would keep fighting. And eventually, humans would win through sheer attrition." Tolmer looked at Vexter. "The swarm is afraid. For the first time in its existence, it encountered a species more relentless than itself." The victory celebrations lasted for days. Coalition species who had lost colonies to the swarm could barely believe they had been saved. Human soldiers were treated like heroes everywhere they went. Vexter found Commander Bora in a quiet observation deck, looking out at the stars. He approached her carefully. "I need to apologize," Vexter said. "I recommended quarantining your species. I thought you were too dangerous." Bora smiled. "You were right. We are dangerous, but you use that danger to protect us. That's what friends do, General." Vexter sat down next to her. In his hand was a bottle of human alcohol that Bora had given him. He took a small sip and immediately regretted it. The burning sensation was terrible. "How do you drink this poison?" he gasped. Bora laughed. "Practice. Lots of practice." The Coalition Council voted unanimously to offer Earth full membership. The quarantine proposal was withdrawn. Humanity became the Coalition's primary defensive force. With human soldiers stationed throughout known space, Suhyun stood before the Council one last time, signing the treaty that made Earth an official Coalition member.